Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Today we got a good video for you. I want to talk today about free lumber. And what do I mean by free lumber? Well, let's explain what it is, where to get it, what do you do with it, and who's it for. There's a lot of questions there, so let's get into that now. Okay guys, so what am I talking about when I say free lumber? Well, what I mean is lumber that you can acquire, find, or get one way or another without actually taking any money out of your pocket and buying it. Now, there's going to be the conversation, I'm sure, that will come up in the comments that will say, my time is worth money, and some of these things take more time than it's worth to actually acquire the lumber. And I'm going to be honest with you, I will agree with you 100%, but I'm also going to say that everybody's different. And it may be too much for you, too much work that is, to acquire some of this lumber, but for somebody else it may not. So I'm going to go through all of these options. We'll talk about them. I'll explain them. I'll show you some things I've built with it. I do it. I'm not a fan of all of it, but I'll go through it. The easiest new way to find free lumber is, honestly, people give it away. Look at your Craigslist. Look at Facebook now has something called Facebook Marketplace. My neighborhood has a email forum thing where people send emails. You know, you join it through a server and then it emails all of the people in the neighborhood. There's always people giving away free stuff there. I haven't actually seen lumber on that site, but there's been other kinds of things that people have been giving away. So it's possible your neighborhood somebody might be. These are all kind of new ways to find free lumber. And it's easy because it's usually your neighborhood. You know, if you're looking on Craigslist, you're looking at local. If you're looking at Facebook Marketplace, you can search by local. So find yourself stuff that's local and go look for it. Now, what's the next possible way to do free lumber? And I think it's the most obvious choice. We've seen it all over YouTube. It's been done to death out there. I've done a video on it. That's pallet wood. Let's talk a little bit about pallet wood. Pallet wood, guys, is you know, it's not the greatest lumber on the planet. You know, the board that comes out of the tree, that's the pith, the worst board in the tree, is usually what goes to the guy that makes the pallets. Another negative to pallets is they are a royal pain in the ass to take apart. There's no way around it. They're difficult to disassemble. I do not disassemble them. I'll put a link to a video here where I did my pallet project. I made my drill bit cabinet. I'll post a picture of it right here. So that cabinet was a fun project, but the actual disassembly of the pallet I did a little differently. I did not rip it apart. I cut the boards away from the runners in the pallet and got smaller pieces. I did have to cut and bounce the center stringer out of a few of them to get the longer pieces to do the two sides. But I did as little disassembly as I could with the pallet. So I kind of mentioned a couple of negative things to pallets. Obviously, there's a positive to pallets. They are readily available and easy to find. I live inside the Capital Beltway in the Washington, D.C. area, in an industrial area. I mean, there are pallets everywhere here. I can turn right or left on Route 1 and to see signs, free pallets, behind industrial sites, warehouses, manufacturing sites. They're everywhere. I would say don't go looking at your Walmarts, your grocery stores. Those companies reuse their pallets. That's not the best place to look for pallets. Look, big expensive things, big computer parts, big medical devices that come in big pallets. They're going to be the better pallets to get because they're going to be, one-time use big pallets that are made out of better wood. So that's pallets, guys. I'm not the greatest fan of pallets. They're free lumber. One last really good use for pallets I can tell you is learning. If you're a new woodworker and you want to learn how to hand cut a dovetail, how to use your hand plane, how to do anything, how to just saw with your hand saw. Get yourself a pallet, cut some pieces out of it, and start at it, man. That's the greatest way to learn, to take some pallet wood, cut it into small little pieces, throw them away when you're done. Best use of a pallet I can think of. So the pallet's stepsister is the shipping crate. Shipping crates are obviously what comes sometimes on top of the pallets. Where a pallet is going to get you some long board foot of lumber, the shipping crate is going to get you some sheet good type lumber. Here's a small example of what you can get out of shipping crates. A few examples of shipping crates. I work in a data center, and we get computer equipment delivered all the time in big crates, and you can cut 3 foot by 3 foot sections of 3/4 plywood out of the sides of these crates. And a lot of times when we're taking our 4 by 8 sheets of plywood to build our projects, we're cutting them down to smaller pieces. So a 3 foot by 3 foot piece a lot of times can get a couple of parts out of. These boards here, I had about 20 of these. I don't know why they nipped the corner off them, but they all have the corner nipped off of them. These were actually dividers inside of a crate. So they were like this, every couple of inches, just stacked up inside of a crate, and then there were pieces inside of there. So all I literally had to do was pull these things out, and I had, pieces of very usable 1/2-inch plywood. It's actually not that bad of plywood. Recently, I purchased a grizzly joiner, and that grizzly joiner came to my house on a pallet, and the top section, the actual beds, were in a crate. And I took the crate apart. Here's a little video of me taking apart right here if you want a good laugh. Okay, so that was me cutting that crate apart in the back of my pickup truck. I was not paying much attention to how I cut that because it was 104 degrees with the heat index the day I was doing that, and my only intentions there was to get back inside the air conditioning. But what I did get was small pieces like this. Now this is 5/16 plywood. Like I said, it's probably, and some of it's even thinner. This is 1/4 inch. I would not have stopped to get this pallet or this crate if I was driving by it, but because it was shipped to my house, I cut it apart. What do I see here, guys? What do you see here? These are drawer bottoms. These are pieces to be box bottoms, drawer bottoms. They could be the back to that drill bit cabinet I made. Honestly, this is a small example. I don't have a bigger example with me here today, but you can picture the big crates that big pieces of equipment come in. You can cut some nice pieces of plywood out of a big crate. Here's an example of something I made. This is plywood. You can kind of see the plies right there. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But this was made out of just a piece of plywood. It's a little birdhouse. It's a simple little project. Piece of plywood. Free. It was free to make because I got it out of a free piece of plywood. Alright guys, the next type of free lumber I want to talk about is a little bit different. It is new construction, construction, and demolition. And out of that, my favorite is demolition. I'll quickly talk about construction, mostly new construction. You can find, construction grade lumber on new construction sites. The caveat there is be aware that you are not allowed to go on construction sites and take things. They are private property, and they're the property of the contractor. But that doesn't mean you can't make friends with somebody on that site. Probably the laborer on the site that's going to have to haul the crap away, and maybe make friends with him, buy him a beer, and maybe you can get some of that stuff off that pile. There are ways to do that. I like to partake in a few beers after work at happy hour, and I've met several guys that work on construction sites and have found some lumber that way by buying somebody a beer and having him show up a week later with some lumber in the back of his truck, and I throw it in the back of my truck and buy him a beer. So there are ways to get around that, but I'm not a huge fan of new construction grade lumber anyway. It's not the greatest lumber in the world. I prefer old lumber in older buildings, so demolition type projects, older homes getting remodeled, things like that. Smaller construction companies a lot of times where you can walk up and talk to one or two people. Nothing wrong with walking up to the site and talking to somebody. They may scare you off. They may say, hey, get off the property. I don't want to talk to you. That's fine. That's their prerogative. Some guys might work with you. Tell them, hey, I'm learning woodworking. I'd like some scraps. they might let you, grab some stuff. There's a lot of good old lumber out there, guys. Here's some perfect examples. This is a true 2-inch by 4-inch 2x4. This came out of a 100-year-old row house in Baltimore. A friend of mine is renovating that building for his son, and he's pulled a bunch of these out, and he was throwing them away. I play golf with my friend, and we were at the golf course, and they're in the back of his truck, and he said, "I'm throwing them away." I'm like, "Well, let's just throw them right in the back of my pickup. I'll take them." This is the kind of lumber I got out of them. Now, granted, you're going to get some holes, some knots. It's older lumber, but this is, it's hard to make this portray into the camera, but this is just, it's harder lumber than what we get at the home centers today. This is just a better grade of pine. I don't know how else to put it, but that's how I'm going to put it. It's good old lumber that you can mill up. Now you got to take some time to mill it up. They have obviously nails in them. You got to clean them up. But if you take the time to clean them up, if you own a bandsaw, that's probably pretty much a prerequisite to do this kind of work. But you can get some very nice lumber out of it. This here is a perfect example of a piece of old, very old lumber. It's very possible this board is over a couple hundred years old. I grew up in a house in Connecticut that was built in 1750. And several years ago now, almost 20 years ago now, I went up there for my dad's funeral and stopped by and looked at the house. And the gentleman that purchased it from my dad rebuilt the entire inside. He gutted the whole thing, and he had a barn full of chestnut lumber. For those of you who don't know, chestnut doesn't really grow anymore. A blight killed it 80 years ago or whatever. And you can't get chestnut anymore. So the only way to find it is in barn finds, building finds, old buildings that are being renovated. You can find this kind of lumber in old buildings, and you can make very nice projects. I built this display case. Probably should have dusted it. This is my dad's display flag. My dad's flag from his service days. This is made out of this cherry, so it's a very nice project. I made this for my mom, who has now since passed as well, so I have it. But it is, it's a nice case built out of the house my dad lived in his entire life. So that's a really nice project. And chestnut, I don't know if you can see it, chestnut is like an orangey brown wood. It's a very, very pretty lumber. It's a shame it doesn't grow anymore. It has worm marks in it. You can see I have wormholes here. It's just part of the character of the wood. You leave it. It's kind of a shame we can't get it anymore, but you can find old growth pieces like this. This is actually, I resawed this. This came like this when I got it. It was actually a window sash in the house that he pulled out. So it was this wide and about that thick, and I resawed it down to 4 planks this long. I used 3 of them to build this project. I have this one left. So it's a special board. I don't know what I'll do with it. I always said if I go back to Connecticut, I'll stop by and see if he has any more. It would be nice to get some more. I mentioned barns. I got 4 pieces of pine. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the width of this. This is 14.5 inches wide. They're all 4 of them. This is the shortest of the 4. It was the easiest one to carry back up here. It's 40 inches long. And these boards are all, they are 5/4. They are, so they're an 1.25 inches thick. Inch and a quarter thick. They're almost 6/4. I don't know what I'm going to do with this pine yet, but it is, you don't get boards this wide anymore. So it came out of a barn. You can see there's holes, there's nail holes, there's, it's got wear to it. I'm sure this is a 150, 200-year-old board as well. But this is the kind of stuff you can find in demolition sites. And you can make beautiful cases like this. So that's construction sites, demolition sites, a very good way to get free lumber. Okay, everybody, the next means for acquiring free lumber that I want to talk about is Well, it's probably the most seedy of them all. It would be dumpster diving. Now, I know this is not something for everybody, but let's be honest, people. Everybody throws things away, and a lot of people have no use for lumber. You can find lumber just leaning against your plastic bins. In my neighborhood, we have these plastic bins you push out in the street. I drive out of the neighborhood and see lumber leaning against the bins all the time. Here's a perfect example. This is a 6-foot, it's 2 boards actually, 2 6-inch boards that have been stapled together, believe it or not. I'm guessing this was a shelf in somebody's closet, maybe. I don't know. But obviously they just took it out. It's perfectly flat, good lumber. It's 6 feet long, 12 inches wide. This is 6 board foot of lumber. Leaning up in the trash. It happens. People throw it away, and there's nothing wrong with grabbing a piece of trash and throwing it in the back of your truck. The other thing you can find in trash is furniture. Just the other day, driving out of my neighborhood, I saw this laying on the side of the road. Here's a little picture here. Now that little jewelry box, it was in pretty good shape. It had a broken leg. I really think somebody could fix that and let some little girl use it as their first jewelry box, so I didn't take it. I didn't want to bust it up. There wasn't enough lumber in there to do anything with it. And I was kind of happy to see it was gone when I came back home, so some little girl's probably happy with that right now. And that is one thing I will say about furniture. Restoring furniture is a form of woodworking, so it's possible that you might find something that's worthwhile of putting back together and finishing it. People throw furniture away for all kinds of reasons. Pets chew them up, watermarks from drinks, drawers fall apart. It's not that hard to glue dovetails back together. I've seen many people throw furniture away just because they think the drawers are shot, and all it is the old glue gave out. Remember, a lot of old furniture is made out of really good lumber. Anything, mahogany, cherry, maple, all the classics. You can find a lot of quality pieces of lumber in old furniture, and it doesn't matter how beat up it is. You just throw it through your planer and bring it back to new. So keep an eye out for furniture laying on the side of the road. Some furniture you want to avoid. Here's a picture of something you should avoid. I did not pick that up on the side of the road. That's in the back of my truck because it was in my storage unit. That is an old TV armoire for you younger people. Back in the day, we didn't hang our TVs on the wall. We had these big pieces of furniture to put these big tubes in, and they basically became extinct when the flat panel TV came out. That thing's been in my storage unit for like 10 years, and I finally decided I was moving. I was downsizing to a different storage unit, and it didn't make the trip. I cut it up and got rid of it. It was just particle board. No reason to pick up particle board off the side of the road. It's junk. So no, I didn't pick that up, but I'm just showing you what you should do with particle board. You should leave it on the side of the road because all it's good for is to cut up and throw in the trash. But there's many, many, many pieces of furniture that people throw away every day that are made out of figured, beautiful lumber. So just saying, keep your eyes out. It's out there. And the last method of free lumber I'm going to talk about, and this one's a little sketchy on the free side because you may have to spend some money to make this lumber, but that is truly milling a log into lumber. Now, you may have a tree that has to come down for some reason in your property. So if you have to take the tree down anyway, you're going to make that expense anyway. So I don't really consider this an expense. It's the free part is when it comes down on the ground, you don't have to pay somebody to haul it away. You can have your sawyer cut it into 8-foot lengths and bring a guy with a wood miser in to cut it up. You're going to have to pay that guy. So there is some expenses here. But there's a lot of people that own wood misers. You can go to the wood miser website. I think it's woodmiser.com, and they have a list of people in every state and their addresses and contacts to get a hold of them to have them come out and cut logs up. Get to know a tree surgeon. It's possible if they have to get rid of the wood, they might give you a piece. You never know. I know a lot of people use the logs for firewood, but not everybody does. So it's possible you can get some free lumber that way from a tree sawyer. And the other side of milling your own lumber has become a fad lately. New bandsaws are becoming much more powerful, and they're having a larger resaw capacity. Quite frankly, you can take firewood these days and resaw into planks, of usable lumber. You could get a 17-inch bandsaw with the proper motor and a 12-inch resaw capacity, and take a 36-inch log at about 8 inches and run it through and make 3-foot-long planks out of it. You're gonna have to spend a year drying it up, but it's a free way to get lumber. Now, I would love to do this. This is one thing I would really love to do. I don't have the room to do it. I could do it on a very small scale, but I don't know that it's worth upgrading my bandsaw to be able to mill a couple of boards. I have a 14-inch bandsaw that has a 6.5-inch resaw capacity. It's a traditional Delta bandsaw, and it doesn't really have the proper motor. So I'm kind of stuck there. I don't really think I can do much with that, but I'm going to find a log that is at 6 inches and cut it up for you on my bandsaw, and we'll do that in a future video, and then a year later we'll make a box out of it or something. So those are my ideas of how to obtain free lumber. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this isn't something that everybody's going to be interested in, but if you are, I hope this helped you. And if it did, please go ahead, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you.